My brother found out I had $4 million on Thanksgiving, and by the time the pie was served, my parents had already called a lawyer. That was just the beginning. Before the week was over, my brother had forged my signature on a power of attorney document, drained $40,000 from a joint account I had forgotten to close, and told everyone in our family that I had lost my mind. Not metaphorically. He told them I was mentally unstable, dangerous even, that someone needed to step in and manage my finances before I destroyed everything I had built. He was wrong about a lot of things, but he was right about one thing. Someone was going to destroy something. It just wasn't going to be me. I need to back up. My name is Maya, and I am 31 years old. I built my first app at 24 in my apartment in Nashville, with $2,000 I had saved from waitressing. By 27, I had sold that app to a mid-sized tech company for enough money to change my life entirely. I reinvested most of it. Quietly. No announcement. No Instagram post. No family dinner where I passed around champagne and made a toast. I had watched enough people blow sudden money on the wrong things. I wanted to be careful. So I was. My family did not know. My parents knew I was doing well. I had paid off their car 2 years earlier and never asked for it back. But the full picture, the investment accounts, the portfolio, the number with 4 commas, that was mine. I had earned the right to keep it private. I had also grown up watching my brother spend money that wasn't his. He was 34, 3 years older than me, and he had a talent for making every financial disaster sound like someone else's fault. His restaurant had closed. His trucking venture had collapsed. He had borrowed from our parents twice, from our aunt once, and from a friend who no longer spoke to him. He was charming about it. He always had a plan. The plan just never worked. I loved my brother, but I was not naive about who he was. Thanksgiving at my parents' house in Franklin was the same every year. My mother spent 3 days cooking, and then spent the actual day anxious about whether everything was warm enough. My father sat in his recliner and offered commentary on football he wasn't really watching. My brother showed up loud, and a little too cheerful, the way people are when they are performing relaxation rather than feeling it. His wife, who I had always liked more than I let on, usually sat quietly next to him and looked at her phone. This year I had driven down from Nashville alone. I had been dating someone for a few months, but it was too early to bring him into the chaos of my family's holiday. I had my phone, my overnight bag, and a bottle of wine I had picked out, specifically because it was good enough to enjoy but not so expensive that my brother would ask questions. I should tell you about the notification, because that is where everything started. I had set up real-time alerts on my brokerage account. A habit, not paranoia. I checked the numbers the way some people check the weather, just to know. My phone buzzed while I was in the bathroom, washing my hands before dinner. The screen lit up on the counter. Portfolio update. 4,247 $803. When I came back to the table, my brother was pouring himself another glass of wine. I did not think anything of it. I set my phone face down next to my plate and started passing the sweet potatoes. 20 minutes later, he said it. His voice was light, almost casual, like he was commenting on the weather. He said, "So Maya, $4 million. The table went quiet. I looked at him. His eyes were steady. He had been waiting. I said, "Excuse me?" He picked up his wine glass and leaned back. "Your phone lit up when you were in the bathroom." I saw the notification. He paused. 4.2 million. To be exact. I felt the air leave my lungs slowly, the way it does when something you were afraid of finally arrives, and you realize fear was just your body preparing. My mother set down her fork. My father unmuted the television but did not look at it. My brother's wife studied the centerpiece with sudden, intense interest. "That's my private financial information," I said carefully. My brother smiled. Not a warm smile. "You've been sitting on $4 million. While Dad's roof is leaking, while Mom drives a car with a cracked windshield, while I have been killing myself trying to get back on my feet." He shook his head. "And you said nothing." My mother made a sound. Not words. Just a sound. Low and wounded. Designed to land exactly where it did. "We raised you," my father said quietly. That was all. Just that. As if it explained everything that was about to happen. I looked around the table, at the faces I had known my entire life, at the people who had driven me to school and showed up at my graduation and called on my birthday, and I saw something in their expressions that I recognized from the way you recognize a smell. You cannot quite name something I had always suspected, but never wanted to confirm. They were not hurt. They were calculating. I said, "I worked for that money. I built something. I sold it. I invested it carefully over 4 years. Nobody helped me do that. We helped you, my mother said. Her voice had shifted into the register she used for maximum effect. Soft, trembling, wronged. We helped you your whole life. My brother set his glass down. Look, we're not asking for everything. Just something reasonable. A family account. You could set up a fund, something that covers the roof, gets me through the next 6 months, while the new business finds its footing. You wouldn't even miss it. There it was. I had heard variations of that sentence my entire adult life. From friends who wanted to borrow rent money. From a college boyfriend who thought my tips should cover his textbooks. You wouldn't even miss it. As if the amount was the point. As if generosity could be measured in what it cost you to give. I said very calmly, no. My brother's expression did not change. That was the thing that unnerved me most. He had expected the no. He was already past it. My mother started crying. My father said I was cold. My brother said he had expected this, that I had always thought I was better than the rest of them, that money had changed me. His wife got up quietly to help clear the plates. I sat there and let them talk. I had learned years ago that responding to a script only extends the performance. That night I slept in my childhood bedroom with the door locked and the glow of my phone screen making shapes on the ceiling. I called my attorney before I fell asleep. Not a panicked call, a practical one. I told her what had happened. She told me to document everything and to change the passwords on every account before morning. I already had. She said to let her know if anything else developed. It developed quickly. The next morning, I came downstairs to find my brother already in the kitchen. He had made coffee. He was pleasant in the deliberate way. That means someone has decided to try a different approach. He apologized for how dinner had gone. He said he had been under a lot of stress. He said he just wanted his sister back. I poured myself a cup of coffee and listened. Then he slid a piece of paper across the counter. It was a durable power of attorney form. My name was printed at the top. His name was listed as agent. I looked at it for a long moment. Then I looked at him. You printed this last night, I said. I just want to make sure your assets are protected, he said. You're busy. You've got a lot going on. If something happened to you, someone should be able to step in. I almost laughed. He had stayed up past midnight, searched for the form, printed it, and was now explaining it to me as an act of generosity. I studied his face. He believed it. That was the most frightening part. He had told himself a story in which he was the hero, and he had told it so many times he had forgotten it was fiction. I folded the paper in half and put it in my bag. He said, Maya, I'll have my attorney look at it, I said, and I walked upstairs to finish packing. I drove back to Nashville that afternoon. My mother texted me twice. My father did not contact me at all, which was its own kind of message. My brother called once, and I let it go to voicemail. I did not listen to the voicemail until 2 days later, when I was sitting in my attorney's office, and I played it on speaker so she could hear it too. It was 6 minutes long. He talked about family, about loyalty, about how disappointment worked differently when it came from someone you loved. Then, near the end, his voice shifted. He said that he had spoken with someone who specialized in conservatorship cases. He said that there were circumstances in which a court could appoint a financial guardian for someone who was making decisions that were not in their best interest. He said he was not threatening me. He was just letting me know what options existed. My attorney set down her pen. She looked at me and said, He is absolutely threatening you. We spent the next 45 minutes mapping out a response. I was not scared. I want to be precise about that. I was not scared. I was focused. Fear is what happens when you don't have a plan. I had called my attorney the night of Thanksgiving. I had documentation. I had changed my passwords. I had transferred assets into accounts with additional verification layers. I was 3 steps ahead, and I intended to stay there. What I had not anticipated was my brother moving sideways instead of forward. My best friend called me on a Wednesday morning, 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, with that particular tone in her voice that means she is trying to decide how to say something. She told me to check my brother's Facebook page. The post was long. It was the kind of writing that performs grief full of carefully chosen pain, structured to provoke maximum sympathy with minimum verifiable fact. He wrote about growing up in a struggling household, about watching his sister pull away as success changed her, about reaching out in vulnerability and being turned away. He tagged our mother, who had already commented with a broken heart emoji. 3 of our aunts had shared it. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in 4 years had written a paragraph about how money ruins families. By noon, it had been shared 47 times. I sat with it for exactly 20 minutes. Then I called my attorney, who told me to say nothing publicly. Then I called my best friend, who told me to say something publicly. Then I made myself a cup of tea, sat at my desk, and thought about what I actually wanted. What I wanted was not to perform anything. I was tired of watching people arrange their pain into content. I typed a short statement. I said that I loved my family. I said that the situation was more complicated than had been presented. I said that I had boundaries, and that I intended to maintain them. I posted it, put my phone in a drawer, and went for a run. The responses split exactly the way I expected. Half the comments told me I was heartless. The other half said things like she doesn't owe anyone anything, and boundaries aren't cruelty. A few people who had been through similar situations sent me private messages that I read quietly that night, sitting on my kitchen floor with my back against the cabinets, more moved than I wanted to admit. My brother called 12 times over the next 3 days. My mother called 4 times and left 2 voicemails, both of which were variations on "you're breaking this family apart." Then my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. It was a woman named Patricia who identified herself as a journalist with a local news outlet. She said my brother had reached out to her. She said he was prepared to give an interview about a self-made millionaire who had abandoned her family after building her wealth. She wanted my comment. I gave her my attorney's contact information and hung up. 2 days later, my attorney called me back with news that replaced any residual calm I had left. My brother had opened a credit card in my name, not by hacking anything, not by breaking any sophisticated security. He had done it the stupid, brazen way he had used information he already had from years of being my family member. My childhood address, my mother's maiden name, a security question I had used on an old account whose answer he would have known. The card had been approved for $8,000. He had charged $6,000 of it in 4 days. My attorney told me while I was standing in my kitchen making dinner. I turned off the stove. I sat down on the floor. This was the moment. Not Thanksgiving, not the power of attorney form, not the Facebook post. This was the moment where I understood completely that my brother was not making poor decisions from a place of desperation. He was making calculated decisions from a place of entitlement. He believed, at a fundamental level, that what was mine was already partly his, that my refusal was the aberration, that he was simply correcting an imbalance. I called the credit card company. I filed a fraud dispute. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. I called my attorney back and told her I was ready to file a police report. She said, "Are you sure? Once you do this, there's no version of the relationship that survives it." I thought about my brother at the Thanksgiving table, the way he had looked at me across the sweet potatoes with that smile that already knew the answer. I thought about the power of attorney form printed at midnight. I thought about $6,000 charged to my name for things I had not bought. I said, "File it." The police report was quiet, bureaucratic. I sat in a beige office across from a detective who typed slowly and did not express any emotion about what I was telling him. My attorney sat beside me. I brought documentation for everything. The detective said they would be in touch. My brother found out within 24 hours. I do not know who told him. He called my mother, who called me, and the voicemail she left was the worst thing she had said to me yet. She did not defend what he had done. She did not argue about the credit card. She said that I had chosen money over family. She said that she had raised a daughter who turned out to be a stranger. She said she did not know me anymore. I listened to it once. Then I deleted it. I want to be honest about what that week felt like. People assume that when you cut off family, especially when you are the one with the resources, and they are the ones behaving badly, that it must feel empowering, clean, like setting down something heavy. And eventually it does. But first it feels like standing in a room that used to be warm and watching the heat leave. I called my best friend at 11 at night, and she talked to me for 2 hours about nothing in particular, the way a good friend knows how to do. I ordered takeout and ate it on my couch watching a show I had already seen. I let myself feel the grief of it without trying to turn it into a lesson. There would be time for lessons later. The investigation moved faster than I expected. My brother had not been sophisticated. The IP address used to open the credit card application traced back to his home network. The email used matched an old address he had given my mother years ago that he had apparently forgotten he still used. He had not planned the fraud the way he had planned everything else methodically, over time. He had planned it quickly, in the space between Thanksgiving and desperation, and he had made the mistakes that quick plans make. He was charged 6 weeks after I filed the report. Credit card fraud. Identity theft. I was not in the room when it happened. I was in Nashville, sitting at my desk, when my attorney called to tell me. I asked what it meant for next steps. She said he had the option to resolve it civilly, which his attorney had already suggested, or to fight it criminally. Given the evidence, fighting it would be a losing proposition. She expected a resolution within 60 days. My mother texted me the morning after the charges were filed. The text said, "I hope you're happy." I did not respond. My brother took the civil resolution. He agreed to repay the credit card debt in full, accepted a formal judgment on his record, and signed an agreement that included an order requiring him to have no contact with my financial accounts or institutions. His attorney had apparently convinced him that fighting it would only make things worse. He did not call me. He did not reach out in any way. Neither did my father. My aunt, my mother's sister, a woman I had always quietly admired, sent me a card in the mail. Just a card, with a note inside. It said that she had watched the situation from the outside, and that she thought I had handled it with more grace than she would have managed. She said some families are held together by love, and some are held together by dependency, and that the second kind of holding is not holding at all. I read that card 3 times sitting in my car in a parking garage before I finally went inside. 3 months after Thanksgiving, I was at my desk reviewing a contract when my phone buzzed with a text from a number I had removed from my contacts. I still recognized it, my brother. The text said, "I know I don't have any right to contact you. I just wanted to say I know what I did was wrong. Not the way I said it before. Really, I know it was wrong." I stared at it for a while. Then I put my phone down and went back to the contract. Not because I hated him. I want to be clear about that. I did not hate my brother. I had loved him my whole life. The way you love the version of someone you grew up with. The version that existed before choices accumulated into character. But remorse in a text message is easy. What had happened was not a moment of poor judgment. It was a pattern. It was a system. It was a belief that my success was a resource he was owed access to. A text could not dismantle that. Maybe nothing could. Maybe something eventually could. But I was not the one who could offer him that, and I had stopped believing it was my job to try. I went back to the contract. That evening, I met my best friend for dinner at a place we had been going to since we were 23. Back when we split one entree and argued about the tip, we ordered whatever we wanted and sat by the window and talked for 3 hours. On the walk back to our cars, she linked her arm through mine and said, "You seem different." I asked what she meant. She thought about it. "Less braced," she said finally. "Like you've been waiting for something to happen for a long time and now you know it already happened and you're still standing." I thought about Thanksgiving, about my phone lighting up on the bathroom counter, about the expression on my brother's face when he said $4 million, about how long I had carried the quiet weight of knowing who my family was while still hoping I was wrong. She was right. I had been braced for a long time. I was not braced anymore. Here is what I know now that I did not let myself know before. The people who love you do not wait until they find out what you're worth. They do not pivot from happy holidays to legal maneuvers inside a single dinner. They do not open credit cards in your name and tell themselves they are only taking what was owed. Love does not make calculations. Love does not keep score of what it is owed for raising you. I built my company from nothing. I worked nights and weekends for years. I made smart decisions and cautious ones and a few lucky ones. The money in my accounts exists because of choices I made when no one was watching, when there was no applause, when failing would have meant going back to waitressing and starting over. My family did not build that. They were not there for it. They showed up afterward, when the number was large enough to see from across a dinner table, and they called it family. It is not family. It is a claim. You are allowed to say no to a claim. You are allowed to say no firmly and legally and without guilt. Your success belongs to you. Your peace belongs to you. The boundaries you set are not abandonment. They are the shape of what a healthy life looks like. I know some of you watching this are sitting with something heavy right now. Maybe it is not $4 million. Maybe it is a promotion, a settlement, an inheritance that everyone else decided they deserved a piece of. Maybe it is smaller than that. Maybe it is just the fact that you finally have enough, and someone you grew up with has decided that your enough is their right. I want you to hear this clearly. You do not owe anyone access to what you built. You do not have to explain your accounts, justify your decisions, or sign anything because someone made you feel guilty at a dinner table. Get an attorney, change your passwords, document everything, and then make the decision that lets you sleep at night. Drop a 1 in the comments if this story hit close to home. Tell me where you're watching from. And if you're going through something similar right now, I genuinely want to know, because sometimes the most important thing is realizing that you are not the only one. Hit subscribe if you want more stories like this. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to sign